Well, Wes, everyone's going bananas for the new Jack Daniels 14 year.
Boom. B-A-N-A-N-A-S.
Are they all nuts? If you want to find out, then stick around.
You know what we got to do before we start this crazy train, and that is to thank our patrons.
We sure do.
They make the train possible. We would not be on this train if it weren't for you guys. Thank you for your support of the show. Thank you for all that you do, and we hope that you know it's not a one-way street. We give back, and we love you guys. And if you want to find out more about those packages that we offer, stick around to the end of the video, and we'll give you all the details.
Absolutely. So let's talk about the background of why we're doing this video. And real quick, I would like everybody to acknowledge the dad jokes that I put in the intro.
That was perfect.
What are the two main tasting notes for Jack Daniels?
Well, there's bananas and there's nuts.
Yeah. And I said, are they bananas? Or they're going bananas, and are they nuts?
Yes, I caught that.
Yeah.
I thought that was good.
You saw it right off the bat.
Yeah.
All right.
Absolutely.
So basically, you all have been seeing a lot of videos about the new Jack Daniels 14. They have a publicist team that reaches out to people who create whiskey content. They ask if you want samples. Some of the bigger channels got a full-size bottle of the 14. Unfortunately, I only got the taster. I'm just a little guy, but I'm grateful for that.
Yeah.
And every time they do this, they send you this press packet. Sometimes there's what they call an embargo, and you can't tell anybody about what's coming until a certain date and time.
Yep.
And that's where you get everybody. All the channels release a video at the exact same time.
Right.
You know.
It's like
and
who's going to release it at midnight,
that seems
right?
to make everybody mad, so we're not doing that anymore.
Yeah.
But you do get the opportunity to get on a Zoom with the Master Distiller.
Super cool.
One, he's a super awesome guy, Chris Fletcher. And he's super open, and he's open to answering all of the questions. And it makes the publicist very uncomfortable because sometimes people ask questions that the publicist knows they don't want that information in the public, but Chris doesn't care, and he's like just like throwing out answers and stuff.
Yeah.
And so I'm in this environment, and I'm a little bit starstruck because you can see it's a Zoom, so there's a tile for all of the people.
Yeah.
And there's 30 other whiskey content creators and like actual whiskey journalists and all of these people that are on there, and I'm seeing all of these people that I really respect on there.
Yeah.
And it was just an interesting experience to see all of them taste these same whiskeys with Chris Fletcher. I'm tasting them at the same time. And kind of the backstory is Jack Daniels in the early 1900s had a few age-stated releases, right? So they had a 10, a 12, a 14, an 18, and a 21.
Wow.
And so they have started to kind of honor that heritage, right? And they don't exactly know when they came out, but they know it was after 1900, but before 1909 when they shut down for Prohibition, because Tennessee shut down 10 years before the rest of the country did. And so now they've revealed that an 18 and a 21 are on the way.
Really?
Yes. And so it was kind of interesting. So, you know, we're supposed to be there talking about the 14 year. They revealed to us that there were 24,000 bottles made of the 14 year.
Okay.
That all of them are being released in the United States. That this was the first year that the 10 and 12 are being released outside of the United States. But this is going to be an ongoing release every year. So every year they're going to have the 10, the 12, and the 14.
All right.
But in the video, all the comments shift to the 18 and the 21, right?
Yeah,
Everyone's like, wait, what? What are you talking about? And
because that's some of the oldest, you know, at least age-stated bourbon, technically bourbon,
right?
That's on the market. I mean, when you're talking like 18, 21-year-old bourbon out there, there's not a whole lot of stuff you see on the shelf that's got that age statement.
No. And historically, Jack Daniels has been very committed to consistency and not age.
Right.
And so Chris Fletcher was, you know, very upfront that this is very exciting for him as a master distiller to be able to take his skills and go in a different direction. You know, before it was like, you've been handed this mantle, don't screw it up. But as a result, you can't be super creative. Right.
And you know what's else interesting is I mean, how long has Chris Fletcher been the master distiller? Do you know?
Only the last few years. But I mean, like, he's second generation. His family's worked there for years.
But here's the cool thing is he's parsing from barrels and picking these, you know, being a part of this, barrels that were there before he even
was in that role. I mean, he operated in a distillery, but
Sure. But I mean, 18-year-old barrels and 21-year-old barrels are most of the time going to be older than some of the people working at the distillery.
Sure.
That's kind of cool.
And so everybody's like, when's the 18 coming? Well, the oldest barrels they have are 15 years. So we're at least 3 years out from the 18 and at least 6 years. And he also made it very clear that there's no guarantee they're going to do it.
Sure.
If the barrels start to turn and they're not happy with the way they taste, then they're not going to do it. But all of the barrels that are in the age-stated line all have the same life cycle. So they spend their first 7 or 8 years at the very top of one of the rick houses.
Yeah.
Not any particular rick house, because everyone like, is it Coy Hill? No.
Yeah.
Some might be Coy Hill, some may not, right?
Yeah.
They just pick them from the top, and then they move them to the very bottom center of the warehouse for the rest of the time that they age, so that they're not extracting as much oak flavor. Okay. And the proof goes up when it's at the top, right? But it starts to come down when it's at the lower in the center. And so, I'm sitting there and everyone's losing their minds and praising the 14-year. And I'm starting to think that there's a little bit too much barrel char. Okay?
Yeah.
Because when you're aging whiskey, there's a couple different processes that are happening. One, your whiskey is moving in and out of the wood through the charcoal layer that's created by the charring process, and it's pulling flavor compounds out of the oak back into the liquid. But there's also things that are being filtered out by the charcoal layer, and there's things that are evaporating out of the barrel that humans can taste, right? And so when you look at the combination of all these things, there is a point at which a barrel starts to decline in flavor.
Yeah.
But that is in the eye of the beholder.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
So some people's palates are slanted towards those higher age statements.
Yep.
Right?
They enjoy those tannins that are typically found in older whiskey and barrel influence that's been there for decades.
Right. And it's almost like one of these things where when you get into bourbon and somebody goes, well, here's a Knob Creek, it's only 9 years old, right? And you go, oh, 9 is young. Yeah. Right, because this is cheap. This is cheap whiskey.
Right,
and then they come along and they go, but this is a Knob Creek 18.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
And then you go, oh, I wonder what the Elijah Craig 18 is like. If 9 is young, this Elijah Craig 18 must be great. And you taste it, and your brain's telling you this is really expensive, really hard to find whiskey. This is the creme de la creme. And then your palate starts to go, oh, well, these flavors, this is what good whiskey tastes like.
Yeah.
And then for the rest of your life, you may actually like whiskey that, from a master distiller's perspective, it's actually degraded.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's actually reached its peak and now it's on the downturn.
On the decline.
Right?
Yep.
So understand that that's the environment that we're evaluating these things on. Another issue that you have with higher age statements is that you do have a lot of evaporative loss. And so the brands have an incentive to proof it down. Right? And what I found is that if you take a really high age whiskey and you proof it down, that additional water tends to have a larger impact on the fruity and floral notes of bourbon.
Speaking of Elijah Craig 18.
Than it does on the bitter notes from the barrel. Right?
Yeah.
And so to me, it makes the barrel char stick out more. And so I kind of think that when you look at what they're doing with the age-stated series, the 10-year is 97 proof, the 12-year is 107 proof, and the 14 is at cask strength, right? And it's going to need that because you're getting more barrel char. You need more of those robust mid-palate flavors to be able to balance that out. So I was able to ask Chris a couple of questions. One thing that I asked him was there any process that's going to be different for the 18 and 21-year barrels that's going to help them mitigate that barrel char bitterness, right? Like, are you gonna have some barrels that were aged lower in the warehouse the whole time?
Yeah.
And he said, no, if it's not broke, don't fix it. We're happy with the direction that it's going.
Okay.
And then the other question I asked was, are you gonna keep the proof high, right? Because when you get to 21 years, there's gonna not be a lot of liquid in that barrel,
right?
And are y'all gonna keep the proof high? And he said that he hopes to keep it at cask strength, but he did warn that because of the final aging environment, that it's going to go down in proof.
Yeah.
So whatever the 18,
that's probably their reason for moving it to kind of a low center of the rick house to balance that proof out, or at least that proof increase out a little bit slower. Right.
Slow that down, slow the extraction. Welcome back to Pretentious Whiskey Reviews. Today, we're evaluating the 1982 Pappy Van Winkle. Ooh. I'm detecting a hint of Bolivian virgin tears and East Indian, no, West Indian grasses.
Y'all, you don't need all that crap. All you need is an American whiskey aroma kit from bourbonrealtalk.com. Developing your palate is a learned skill. Over time, you can train your taste buds without being a douchebag. Get yours today at bourbonrealtalk.com.
I'm also getting Indian nutmeg. So what I thought would be very interesting, because I'm sitting there with all of these people that I highly respect, and I'm tasting the exact same whiskey that they are. We all got the same samples. And I'm like, these people are crazy. The 10 is very clearly the best whiskey, okay? Very clearly. And that's shocking coming from me, because a 97 proof up against a 120, man, my eyes are getting bad, 25.3.
Yeah.
Up against 125 proof, bet bottom dollar I'm picking the 125 every single time.
Yeah.
Right? But for me, on this one, there was just not enough sweetness left to balance out that bitter barrel char flavor. And so we're going to run a little experiment. Truth be told, we've already done this, but you haven't seen it, and I want you to see it. So when Wes got here today, he walked in and there were 3 glasses sitting on the table. Mm-hmm. It was these 3 whiskeys, and I want to show you what happened right now. All right, Wes, before you, our 3 totally blind pours.
Yep. It's true. I just literally got to your house and walked in. Here they are. So
I'm going to tell you nothing about these pours. All I want you to do is keep them in that order and rank them from your most favorite to your least favorite.
Okay. I can do that. Tell me what we just did here.
Jack Daniels has a new 14-year.
Okay.
Everyone is losing their minds.
Okay.
I tasted it with the Master Distiller.
Yeah.
And every other whiskey content creator, all on a Zoom. Everyone's saying, oh my God, the 14-year, oh my God. All the videos that came out, this might be the best whiskey ever made.
Okay.
And I'm sitting there tasting it, and I'm like, guys, I don't get it.
Yeah.
And
let me guess, that's my 3rd place?
No.
Okay.
You ranked the 10 first place.
Okay.
The 12 second place, or 3rd place, and the 14 in 2nd place.
Okay.
So the point of this blind was to identify, is the extra age starting to take away from the experience? Or is it still adding benefit to the flavor complexity?
Yeah.
And in my opinion, the first year that we got these, the 12 was better than the 10. And we have full bottles of those.
Okay, yeah.
This year, there was no question for me, the 10 was the best, which is shocking.
Yeah.
Because it's the lowest proof.
Yeah, I could tell. I knew this was the lowest proof.
But it had
all those flavors that
rounded profile.
Yeah. It has more flavor to it. That it doesn't feel like it's watered down. It just feels super flavorful. I knew it was a lower proof than these 2, but I liked that on this particular blind. And I don't know. I mean, I don't normally. I normally love high proof stuff, but these higher proofs seem to kind of take away from the flavors than add to them. So as you can see, that was the first pour of the day for me. I literally just walked in the door. It was, what was it, like 10 o'clock?
10 a.m., yeah.
Something like that. And I'm just getting here. My eyes are just opening up, and I'm ready to start filming and immediately jump into a blind, which is always exciting. It's my kind of day. And so I had no idea what we were tasting or what I was tasting. And he just said, I don't even know if we're going to use this in an episode. I don't know what this is going to be for, but I just want to see what you think. And you can see what I thought. You know, there were some things about this 10-year. I didn't know what it was at the time, but I had a good feeling that it was at least a Brown-Forman product, but I thought it might be JD because I was picking up a lot of that banana nut bready type flavors, the banana and the nuts together. And so at first I was like, is he trying to give me some Knob Creek? But then that banana came through. I'm like, nope, not Knob Creek. And so I was like, all right, we're probably in Jack Daniels territory here. Let me taste these up and see what I think. And this 10-year, it was just full of flavor, like just tons of flavor. And I was like, man, that's just really tasty. I knew it was a lower proof, but all right, I thought it was a lower proof. And, but the flavors were just so dynamic and so well-rounded that I couldn't not give it the first place nod. The second two I knew were higher proofs than the first, but the second one I figured was the middle of the two proofs, but it still was, you know, a little bit more proof coming through than flavor for me. It was just a little bit
hotter.
more, it drank a little hotter than what I would have hoped. And so I was like, okay, it was close between the second and third options. I gave the 12-year the last place spot, but not by much. I knew the third option, which turned out to be the 14-year, was the highest proof of them all, which I appreciated. I do like that heat, but it still had a little bit more flavor than the second option for me. And so that's kind of how it went for me.
Yeah.
At least, again, for my first taste of the day.
So for me, I was 10, 12, 14. In the previous release where we were given samples of the 10 and 12 before the 14 existed, I did like the 12-year-old more than the 10.
Okay.
And so, and the reason why was because the 10 at the lower 97 proof, I did taste too much of the barrel char flavor. Yeah. And the 12 at the 107 proof, it was a little bit more well-rounded on the palate. So what I learned from this is that you're just going to have to taste each year because there's some variance year to year. Yeah. And the other thing that I hoped that we would identify is that, you know, age doesn't necessarily equal, you know, quality drinking experience.
Sure.
And that there are different people's palates that have been trained to associate barrel char with higher quality that may love the 14 more. Yeah. But I also want to make it okay for you out there that if you taste the 14, you're like, what the heck? Like, why is everyone losing their minds?
Yeah.
You're not alone.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I felt like this year the 10 was the best. Last year I thought the 12 was the best. I don't think that the 14 is beating out either of these two. And I think that if they had all been at around that 125 proof, I think that most people in a blind would rank them 10, 12, 14. I don't know that the 14 years is actually taking the whiskey to a new positive space, at least not for my palate.
Sure.
And I'm kind of fearful about the 18 and the 21, that it's going to go the direction of Elijah Craig 18, right, or maybe like a Pappy Van Winkle 20 or a Pappy Van Winkle 23. Those are all highly sought after bottles that are just not right for my palate.
Right. Just overdone a little bit.
Just overdone.
And this goes back to our age-old recommendation, right? From the beginning of this channel, we've always said, guys, don't pay attention to labels. Don't pay attention to marketing. Don't pay attention to proof. Pay attention to your palate and what it tastes. And if you enjoy it proudly. Be proud of what you like. I mean, I love the 10-year. It's probably going to be easier to find than the 14 anyway.
I would think so. Yeah.
I mean, sure, I'll hang on to that. But, you know, just you're going to have to taste these for yourselves and see what your particular. And again, I would recommend you do what Randy did to me. Taste them blind. That way you aren't influenced by anything.
Right.
You don't even know what distillery you're tasting. And so that's what our recommendation would be for sure.
In the giveaway this week, we are going to give you the opportunity.
Wow. That's cool.
To do this very same tasting.
Yep.
But because I don't have full bottles of all of these, and the full bottles that I have of the 10 and 12 are so different from this year's release.
Yeah, we want you to recreate this.
We want to recreate just this. So we're going to have at least 3 half-ounce sample pack winners.
Okay.
We're going to try to do more than 3 if there's enough liquid left.
Yep.
Sorry, so we'll pour them up. It's okay. Hey, if you do all this, you deserve to drink what you want. But there'll be at least 3 half-ounce sample pack winners. If we can end up with 4, maybe even 5, we'll see.
Okay.
We will we'll let that know when we make the announcement. All you have to do to enter the free giveaway is to like this video, subscribe to the channel, ring the bell for future notifications because we do a giveaway on each show.
Yep.
And hopefully the content is also entertaining for you. And most importantly, you have to go below the video player on YouTube in the video description. You will have to expand the description to see it, but there's a link that says that it's for the free giveaway. You click it, give us your basic information. We run a randomizer, post results publicly, and ship your samples absolutely for free.
Absolutely.
And if you want to support this channel, there are 3 different ways.
Yep.
One, we have Patreon. We talked about that a little bit at the beginning. We also sell merch at bourbonrealtalk.com, and I am also a residential real estate agent who gives away epic bottles as closing gifts for anyone who reaches out. And if you want information about any of those 3 ways to support the channel, it is also in the video description on YouTube.
Awesome.
So if this is your first time tuning into the channel, we'd love to tell you a little bit about our show philosophy and why we do what we do. And we are all about spreading love, creating community, using brown water as a catalyst.
Yeah.
And we've learned that whiskey has a tendency to bring people together. And
it brought us together.
It sure did. We wouldn't have met if it wasn't for whiskey.
Yeah.
And what I learned, I had my younger brother committed suicide right at about the time that I started to get involved in whiskey. And I was looking for connection. I was looking for ways to help people to get involved in each other's life in a way that, maybe would have helped my brother because he started to lose some of his social connections. And I saw whiskey doing that. So I came up with this crazy idea that maybe if I got you connected to whiskey would do the rest of the job and get you connected to others. And so we started the podcast. But when you look out there, and you look in the whiskey enthusiast world, there are a lot of people that are creating unnecessary division. And I would say that universally the cause of that is one problem, and that's people assuming negative intent about people that they don't know. And so Wes observed that, and he came to me and he said, Randy, we have to have our own communication forum where we're not going to allow all of that drama and all of that, negative assumption of intent, so that people can really get to know each other on a level that really matters, right? And so we created Bourbon Real Talk community. That went so well that we started livestateproject.org, which is a suicide prevention and intervention nonprofit. And so all of that's free. You can get involved there. But we also decided to close out every episode with a positive message for all of you out there that are watching or listening to this. And what we decided to do was take a lesson from those negative people that were being hateful to other people online. And we figure if they can hate you online, we can love you online. And so we end every episode the same way, and that's this. If you woke up this morning and you're unsure whether or not anyone loved you, just know that we love you. And we'll see you next time on Bourbon Real Talk. Cheers.
Cheers.